Hey listeners, this is Mike, the real-life alter ego of Sotenga, and the self-admitted weakest link of TG47K's regulars. But if you don't think I'm totally dragging down the quality of the podcast, then hear me out. I've been writing for Hardcore Gaming 101 since I was in high school, and I'm proud to see the site flourish. But it could always use more help for the benefit of its creator, Kurt, especially since he's paying us for these episodes now. If you want to give more incentive for Xerxes, Cal, Bobinator, our editor Jeff, and myself, along with our other friends and guests to put on the best damn show we can, make a pledge at www.patreon.com/HG101. If John Madden gets paid to say obvious things about sports, shouldn't we get rewarded for babbling about video games? If you agree, that's www.patreon.com/HG101. Thank you and peace forever!
Next game we're talking about is Age of Wonders Shadow Magic. It was nominated by @a roguish ham on Twitter.
Well, that way.
Excellent. Spider ham.
Bravo.
Delicious.
That's like in
I
our
would just
top
eat your
10.
Twitter up, you know.
That's already in our top 10 of... well, anyway.
It was developed by Triumph Studios and published by Gathering of Developers for the PC on July 23rd, 2003. I think that should be July 23rd, but I like 23rd.
Oh, it's
the best.
23rd. Oh,
I don't know how I missed that.
that sounds good
Not
to me.
that important.
No,
I
it really-
just like
Alright, so-
23rd.
The Siege
Lousy,
Fortnite ended
smart
on the
weather.
23rd, and all that was left was smoldering ashes.
So we have the Age of Wonders, which this is my first time I actually played an Age of Wonders game, and it's because I think this
Same.
series has one of the worst names that you could ever give a game.
It's
Like-
pretty generic, I gotta
I
say.
keep
I'll
getting it mixed up with, like, Age of Mythology. Are those similar games?
Age of
Not really.
Empires 2. Age of Empires 2. We actually rated that. You guys rated it several episodes ago, and I think with all the PC strategy games that are coming out around this time, maybe this one was kind of overlooked. This series because it didn't seem to stand out quite as much, at least
I
on a
think the
visual
original Age
basis.
of Wonder came out, like 1999?
Yeah, around there. 98, 99. Yeah, I think it's 99.
But, it came on, it was like, oh, I'm called Age of Wonder, and it was like, okay, that's alright. But by now, when this game came out in, like, 2003, it was like, forget that, I'm not playing any of these Age of games. I already played those, I know what they're like, so.
No, it's all about Call of Half-Life now. That is the trend.
But yeah, that was, I don't know, like, because this game, what it is, and thankfully, it's very clearly something, so we don't even have to talk about the game, but it is basically Master of Magic, sort of pared down and slightly improved in very key areas to make it widely
It's like a
accessible.
cross between Master of Magic and the Heroes of Might and Magic series to me.
Yes, it pretty much is Heroes of Masters of Magic, is what I would like to call it. It has some elements of city building, although I don't know how useful it is in all the levels. Like, you can send out caravans to build things, but the levels are kind of pre-canned, so that they're more like Heroes of Might and Magic, where you send your characters and heroes around on almost fixed trails to go to specific areas and capture vacant or independent cities and capture locations on the map that do things, like generate gold and stuff, rather than build near them to get it. And you have heroes that level up, and you have a wizard who now actually is a unit, which is, I guess, one of the cooler things about this game, is you can dangerously send your wizard out into battle if you want to, although it doesn't seem like a good thing. Like, for the most part, it seems like your wizard's not a strong character, so you just want to leave him in your wizard tower.
Yeah, if you take him out, he's just gonna get killed and you're just gonna die. Just
He or
like
she,
Sand of Tower.
because I think every race has a male and female wizard. I could be off on that, but there's several races, and there's a bunch of wizard portraits, as far as I can tell. There's like, 11 or 12 races in Shadow Magic? You know, your standard fantasy races, and then I think you have something like underwater or mer people, some definition. You got people called Archons, which are they the ones that look like Roman legionnaires? Then there's like dragon people and,
course, you have a
undead
choice.
elves.
Yeah, there's also Frostlings, Tygians, which I guess are tiger people, Draconians, all that, Archons, wherever those are. There's definitely no shortage of a variety among all your different units and bits and bops and whatnot.
A bit like Monster of Magic, you don't get a really definitive sense that there's a huge difference between them. You get different units for the most part, but most of the units kind of feel very samey, except for the kind of very specific, unique units that are different. But most of them are like, okay, they're footmen, so they basically act like all the other footmen. These are cavalry people, so they basically act like cavalry, like that.
Yeah, I mean, usually just the races in question are endemic to the wizarding area at the time. Because, compared to Master of Magic, it's less one massive overarching world and more like multiple maps and scene where, I believe you build your wizard's power over the campaign, but for the most part, every level is taken as its own microcosm, its own standalone challenge.
Yeah, I'd say finishing one game with this would take a lot less time than one game Master of Magic.
Oh, for sure. I think you can finish a stage in this in under an hour easily.
Yeah, and I honestly really appreciate... I found... There were things I liked about Master of Magic, but just the overall design of there just being this giant world map was honestly too much for me. And it didn't help that I kept getting spawned on an island where I couldn't do crap until I built a port anyway. But, no, in Shadow Magic here, I really like the more bite-sized format. Which
is closer to Heroes of Might and Magic, I think.
Yeah.
A little closer. And I found it interesting that, so the original Age of Wonder, I believe, did not do the story mode the same way. I think the second one, which was called 2, and this is actually the third one, even though it was maybe going to be an expansion of the second game, but is the full game by itself, and then they released the third one later, but numbering in this series is a bit weird. This one has, story mode, where you have several different, little stories that you play through, because you play different wizards in the story mode, so it's not just a single person or a race in the story mode. And there's also scenario, which are basically handcrafted by the developers stages that you can actually pick which of the wizards in the scenario you play as, and then it plays itself out however it plays out. And then there is a scenario generator kind of random mode. I didn't really play around with that, but it seemed to hint that that was going to be the most sort of sandbox, most open, because you could actually have random wizards in that mode. So that seemed like there's a lot of content here. If this kind of strategy game is your thing, that you would really in this.
So, question: is there a head-to-head mode also where you're allowed to pit off against another opponent, or?
I think there is. I think you can play it over email, which I kind of wonder how that would work.
Oh wow! Back in the day, interesting.
Yeah, if this one has the email mode, I actually read that due to the way the mail servers worked, the play-by-email mode stopped working. Because they changed the way email was sent and received, so...
Oh, that blows.
You can no longer play by email.
They should re-release and modernize this game for, a real-time play. I guess, now that there's Age of Wonders 3, which was released, a whole decade after this one. I believe...
that would be your go-to for trying to play the series multiplayer if you were, digging it. So that came out in the last few years, 2013 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, Triumph went to work on the Overlord series after Shadow Magic, and I don't know a lot about that one, except it's being marketed on the premise of you get to be the bad guy and raise and pillage everything.
Compared to Shadow Magic, Overlord is awful. Compared to Shadow Magic.
Gotcha.
But it's not a terrible game on its own, but wow, I like Shadow Magic a lot more. Specifically Shadow Magic. I didn't play I haven't played AOW 3, so I couldn't tell you for sure.
Quickly at the other two, I could be wrong. I'm sure someone can correct me. They didn't seem terribly different, at least from screenshots. So
no. So the second game is basically the same. This is more of allegedly supposed to be an expansion, where there's evidence of that in the game.
Actually, depending on some bits I've read, Shadow Magic is basically Age of Wonders 2 Good Edition. Because the original Age of Wonders 2 was, apparently kind of borked in some ways. I forget the specifics, but it was too hard and glitchy in some areas, and they didn't patch it right.
I do know that the original Age of Wonders apparently had really abusable AI that you could basically easily defeat. So definitely seems to be that this is definitely if you want to play Age of Wonders, this is a great one to sort of get into. And it is great. I thoroughly enjoyed playing this game pretty much from the onset. I didn't like that you had to play the halflings in the tutorial, because I hate halflings, but...
Well, I'm not the biggest fan of elves myself, but, I don't know, I can... the elf wizard is hot, so I'll give her that, and jeez...
And there's a diplomacy mode, which seems pretty rich too. It's got all of the... I don't know, it's like this game has all of the features that I expect to see in a very well-made 4X game. Like, it has all of, like, I'm like, this should have this. It has this. Cool. And like, every feature in this game is like that, where it's, you know, you've got the overworld mode, you've got a very nice tactical mode, which has a completely serviceable auto mode. You've got this really cool feature where the parties in the world map, they're separate. You can only have like 8 units a stack or something like that, like a very small number. But if units are next to each other when an attack is initiated, they'll actually join in together in the attack. So you can raid a city by piling 4 stacks of units next to each other around the city. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I will definitely say, though, that, you know, building and maintaining a high-end party is pretty vital, because this game can actually be pretty tough, and it lets you know if you're underpowered.
Definitely like Master of Magic, where you can be like, I'm gonna beat everybody, and then you'll show up, and it'll be like a wizard will just suddenly cast instant murder death on your character, and then...
Yeah, I thought I had a good team going, then I just got completely obliterated by a water elemental, so I would take on those unless you know what you're doing.
Problem is, there's so many different kinds of units, you never know how good they are.
Right,
so that's something you just kind of have to try and test personally, and learn for better or worse after they die how effective.
Kind of a similar issue to Master of Magic is that, you know, you have so many units, and that although they are functionally very similar in a lot of cases, they'll be like, well, this specific unit is immune to fire, and this specific unit has magic resistance, and this specific unit is got mind control powers, and until you've played the game for 20, 50, 100 hours, you won't know what most things will have, so you kind of have to scroll through things, try and figure out what your units are actually building, and why this one specific guy trashed your entire team. There's a couple of minor things, like, because you lose if your wizard is destroyed, you can get in situations where you leave your wizard undefended, and then enemies might just sneak into your city with a small army, and then you lose. Like, you just, bam, you're dead, because they cast super death magic and froze your wizard in place, and then they just beat the crap out of you. And you have to learn to pay attention to these things. And one of the only issues I really had with the game was that you can have alliances and you can be at war with things, but it doesn't very well graphically present who you're at war with. The only real way to know is to click the diplomacy screen, as far as I know, is click the diplomacy screen and then check their portrait. And the colors that they picked are, you know, here's red and slightly off red and slightly off red. And it's like, oh, is that an enemy unit? Their name is Catris? Okay, who's Catris? I guess they're my ally. Cool.
I'm a warmongering jerk, and I didn't do too much with diplomacy myself, so I didn't really notice. But it sounds like a decent system that could have been a little better implemented, at least.
I can only feel bad for I feel like people who are colorblind would have a lot of trouble with the way that they've laid this out, because you would basically have to know the enemy. You have to there's like color flags on top of, you know, units and stuff, so you can look at the color. But that wouldn't help if you couldn't tell the colors, because you have to kind of mouse over to tell you who they belong to. And it's all stuff that if you played this game for 100 hours, you would probably be... You'd be down, you'd be like, yeah, I get it, it's fine, I know what I'm doing. Which is not untrue of most 4X games. This is as a whole, as a genre, you really do have to sort of knuckle down and just let the game beat you up repeatedly until you sort of, okay, but now I know how you're going to hit me, so I'm ready to dodge and hit you back, kind of deal. And
I mean, I know I did trash Echo, which we've covered the other side of this episode quite a bit for being too difficult, but I don't know, for as hard as this game gets, I can't find myself getting really mad at it. And I was actually fully prepared to hate this one coming in due to just natural prejudices, because like, oh, it's a strategy game, oh, it's high fantasy, oh, there are elves and dwarves everywhere, what sort of Tolkien bullshit is this?
Can you find yourself ranking it?
Yeah, but no.
Look at this guy. He just wants us to rank this stuff. Like, you can just rank a 4X game. Like, that's physically possible.
Let me just wrap up my thought here.
Yeah.
But, you know, actually getting into it, it was really not what I expected in a good way. No, this game's just really polished and, for the most part, pretty easy to follow, except for the diplomacy things you mentioned, but it doesn't feel like it's piling on too many factors for me to consider. Like,
it also has a great tutorial, and it has a lot of flags that if you try and do something, it'll be like, hey, hold on. Maybe you wanted to do this. Like, it'll suggest buildings to research for all your cities. It'll suggest magic to research. I don't think it's a particular, like, some of its suggestions are probably a little bonkers, and there's an auto battle system, but...
It's just really good to play a more modern strategy game where there's been so much more time and revisions put into explaining how a game works. It feels really nice. I also think
that this one manages to not be too bloated with kind of what people that really like the genre want, because I've played several strategy games of this like 4X genre where it's like, here's the tech tree, and it's like, you know, on like an A1 page or something. Like, it's just this giant, like, enormous, like, list, and it's like, okay, well, how do I build that? And it takes like 10 minutes to work out what you're supposed to even get through here, and it's nice. This game also has, sorry, I keep getting distracted, but it has three maps to deal with sometimes in some of the levels. It's got an underground area, and it's got a shadow ground area too, so there's a lot of stuff that you can manage, but it is manageable. And before I don't know, try and rank this, this game has peak pre-rendered CG quality in its graphics. Like,
yeah, no, like just looking at screenshots on static, I was wondering how much this game just looks like any other PC game, but in motion, no, for 2003, 2004, this is really high quality, and surprisingly actually still looks pretty damn nice today.
Yeah, because they chose to go with rendered, like pre-rendered CG, but they made really nice pre-rendered CG. Like, this was just before, like, everyone was like, nope, it has to be polygons. It doesn't matter if it looks crap. It has to be polygons. But this game managed to be like, no, we'll do really gorgeous CG pre-renders, and everything looks really cool and distinctive, and I like that. Let's put this somewhere. I don't know where to put it. That's
okay. Definitely better than Master of Magic in pretty much every way.
I mean, I know Cal likes that one, but
my only caveat in terms of why I like Master of Magic, maybe still better in some ways, is simply this game. It feels, as you said, it's like smaller in scale. It's kind of like, I'm running a couple of cities, and then I punch another guy, and then I break a city, and that's like the whole level. Master of Magic is like, here's a huge thing to deal with, and it still has that grandiose scope that...
yeah, they both
really need, though. How much of that do you really need, though, the large maps?
It has good flavor to Master of Magic, but it doesn't necessarily make it a better game. It just means that this game doesn't replace Master of Magic to me, but it is a very good execution of like a follow-up and a sort of more approachable, you know, if you were trying to make Master of Magic more approachable and bite-sized comparatively, this game, it really gets it. And, you know, Master of Magic has a lot of civilization in it. This game really doesn't have much civilization in it. The civilization has been ripped out and basically replaced with Heroes of Might and Magic, which it works really well.
Yeah, and for someone like me who's usually not big on 4X and found myself being too impatient and small-minded for Master of Magic, I appreciate that Shadow Magic really does tone down the scale. I can see why Cal would like it more, and I can understand why other people like me, who have really poor attention spans, would prefer Shadow Magic in comparison.
Did you say where you would put it, Sotenga?
Oh, no.
Would put it
hey, wait.
Somewhere. No, I mean,
okay. Is this better than Advance Wars 2?
That's a good question. I do like my Advance Wars. Well, this game is certainly a lot meatier than it, that's a good question. Cal, what do you think?
Damn, I was hoping you would answer the question.
The thing of it is, I was actually going to compare this one to Age of Empires 2, and both of those are really similar on the list, so I don't want to group them too close together, but
we may be stuck doing that.
Yeah, I know.
That's kind of this one is surprisingly excellent in terms of just everything. Like,
I would place it higher than both of them. I mean, I do like Advance Wars 2, but this game is a lot more complex and meatier, and I think it has more content in it.
To me, this one really feels like one of the best and sort of most accessible 4X games. Like, if someone was to say, like, at this point, you know, like, I want to play a 4X game, and I like fantasy, like, theming, what would you recommend? I'd be like, play Shadow Magic. That's pretty much... You'll get it, and it'll work, and if you were trying to sell someone on this genre, I think it does an excellent job of it without really having any rough edges that kind of will throw you off. Like, I genuinely intend to probably play a little bit more of this game after we've ranked it. Like, I don't do this for almost any game that has been nominated that I don't play already because I don't have the time, but I probably will play more of this one. In that regard, I would probably genuinely put it above Super Mario Land Game Boy, which is currently rank 49.
Ooh, I can live with that.
That's very good. Yeah, you know, I'm not going to argue too much. Between R-Type and Super Mario Land, then?
Yep, and the only reason I'm sort of... this one doesn't feel like it influenced a lot. I feel like this took all of the influences and made a great thing out of it.
This is just a bunch of good ideas brought together into one product more than anything.
It may not be a great innovation, but it is a hell of a refinement for other games like this to come, so I think it deserves its credit. It's just a shame that the name is as generic as it is.
So don't let the name put you off. It's a fantastic experience. It's available on like GOG or Steam. I think they both work on modern operating systems.
Yeah,
so
Age of Wonders actually on Steam recently. I bagged it for $2.49. I mean, that sale's probably not on now, but it still runs pretty damn well on
if you're
Steam.
cautious about 4X games, but you want to get into them, maybe give this one a shot. I think it might be more approachable than games like Endless Legend, which is a great recent 4X game, but I really like how this game manages to be a little light as well. Like, it doesn't feel like I have to learn things so I don't get destroyed at the game, but you can still play it, and it just grows on you more and more, and I think that's it's great. So
yeah, it's light without being without feeling like it's toothless either. I mean, it still feels complex enough. Is the important thing. It hits a good balance, I think, between the height, length versus content.
Congratulations! Yeah,
that's where it goes. I think that's it.
We'll go below R-Type, above Super Mario Land.